and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing a roundup of my favorite makeup brushes. Now these are all different kinds of brushes. They're more or less the style and the type of brush rather than like the specific brand. There's a couple here that brands I would suggest for makeup brushes, but other than that it's just more or less the style. So I've gathered up my brushes and I have face brushes and eye brushes, so for eyeshadows and everything like that. And there's one non-brush here that you will see, but I've used it in pretty much almost every video, so if you want to see my roundup of my favorite brushes, then let's get into it. Okay, so to start off, I'm going to do my face brushes. So the first one that I would go in, I'll kind of try and go in order of application. So once I put my primer on, then I usually end up using a beauty blender, which is not a brush, but it's a product that I would use to put foundation on. I've tried using a brush and no brush really works that well for me. If you really prefer a brush, then I would suggest the Fenty Beauty foundation brush. I think this is number 110. I personally don't like this brush. It made my foundation really streaky, but it's one of those, like, if I don't feel like wetting a sponge and I'm super lazy, then I'll reach for this for just a quick everyday look. But I would always recommend using the beauty blender. And then after the beauty blender, I always go in with either setting powder or a like a blotting powder to kind of take away all the shine. So the brush that I've actually been loving is this brush by ColourPop, and it's number 2. And it's just this nice, like, decently fluffy brush, but not too big that you can actually set under your eyes. And but it's not so small that it feels like you're taking forever. So I really like this brush, and this is one of the brands that I would recommend for brushes. Then next, after that, I would go in with this Real Techniques brush. And what I like about this brush is that it's a little bit smaller and it's pointed at the end. So you can actually get it right underneath your eye and set it with any banana powder or translucent powder. You can also use it to bake if you want, so you can just put it in the loose powder, bake under your eyes, and then kind of carve it out. And it's a lot easier because it has this nice pointed brush. So I would recommend it from there. I think Morphe has ones that are similar to this, but you can get, I got this one at Walmart, I think, so it's and it comes in like a set with a bunch of brushes. But if you're looking for a brush like this, just make sure it's nice and pointed at the end and it's not too tight. It's just that nice good amount of fluffy, so it's a little bit tighter than the all over brush from ColourPop, but yeah, this one's really good and I've had this one forever. I use it all the time. Then next, to contour, I use this Luxie Lush brush, and it's the large angled brush, and it's the number 504. So it's got this really good angle for contouring. As you can see there, my brushes are pretty dirty even though I washed them like last week. But it's perfect for really getting in those angles for when you're doing your contouring and then on your forehead, and it's just a really nice brush. So if you're looking for just like a standard angle brush, it's just a nice decent size, and to kind of compare it, like, it's almost the same fluffiness as the ColourPop brush, but just an angled version of it. So yeah, and I really like this angled brush for my contouring. Then next, after contouring, I usually go in with blush, and to be honest, this Quo brush I've had for probably over 10 years, like way over 10 years at least. And it's just a really nice fluffy brush. You can get these fluffy brushes from Morphe, from ColourPop, wherever you buy or want your brushes. Just look for a nice fluffy brush and you can put it on with your blush. Now, some people may want to use this ColourPop as their blush brush. I just like this one because it's a little bit more rounded and it's easier for me to just kind of like loosely put my blush on there. So that's this. I don't even know what the number is. I don't know what it's supposed to be used for. The whole thing just kind of came off because I've had it for so long. Then after my blush, I go in with my highlight, and this is my most favorite brush to use for highlight. This is the Morphe M510, and this one is perfect for packing on the highlight. You can put it down your nose, you can put it everywhere, and it's just the perfect highlight brush. Like, so many YouTubers use this brush for their highlight, and if I have a chance to order from Morphe again, I would order this, like another one of these brushes, because it's so perfect. So this is the Morphe M510. And then after I do kind of like all the setting of my face products, I go in right away and do my brows. So I've been using the Quo liner brow brush. There is no number on this one, but it's just like a really thin angled brush. You could use you could use this for liner if you wanted to. I mean, I wouldn't, but I use this for my, honestly, it's just something that's angled. I also use the Morphe M160 1/8, so it's the exact same thing. It's an angled brush. I don't know if you can see that. They're just angled brushes, and I really like this one. I like this one just because it's a little bit shorter. And then after I'm done that, I just go in with a spoolie and I brush out my eyebrows. So these two kind of go hand in hand together. So that's all the face brushes. Next, I will go into my eye brushes, and I'll try and go in order of what I would use them. So the first one is, again, another Quo brush, and this one is honestly just like a super fluffy brush that I just pack it all on with. You could use any sort of brand. I have a IT Cosmetics brush here from Ulta, and it's called the Airbrush number 112. It's like pretty much the same thing, just a little bit smaller. So you can go in just finding a brush that's really fluffy for you to kind of pack it all over the lid. It's a lot easier to use that. Then next, I would usually go in with my ColourPop number 10 brush. This is a brand that I would highly recommend, like I mentioned, with the face products, because this one is super fluffy and it really can get in that crease, but without being too fluffy compared to this one. So it's just a little bit more tapered, and it's really easy to use. I love these ColourPop brushes. So yeah, this is a perfect one to have as well. Something that's just a little bit more angled. And if you're looking for something that has more of a point to it, again, Quo has one of these where it's like really pointed on the end, and it's really easy to get in there in that crease to make it kind of buff it all out a little bit. So I tend to use the ColourPop one more than the Quo one. There is no number on this, so I'm not sure. Again, this is like a really old brush, but they're kind of two in the same. It just depends on what your preference is. Then after I do the crease, I go in and really define it. So I have two options that I really like to use to define. More recently, I've been using the Luxie 205 Tapered Blending. And so this one I use to kind of pack it on. You've probably seen in my more recent tutorials that I use this one to really pack it onto the outside corner and then blend it in through the middle. So this one's perfect. I really like it. It's a lot more tighter than the ColourPop one, but it's got a more of a flat top. So this one you can see is like a little bit more bushy, and then the other one, the Luxie brush that's in pink, is a little bit more flat, so I find it easier to kind of blend that way. If you were looking for something a little bit more defined, the Crown Brushes C433 Pro Blending Fluff as well as the MAC 217 are two of like pretty much the identical brush, and they really can get into that crease. They're a little bit more flat. When you purchase them from MAC or Crown Brushes, they are actually a little bit flatter, just because I've washed these ones. So this one, this is the MAC one right here, and I love this one for really getting in there and packing it. So you could choose the Luxie or the MAC one, or it just depends on your preference. So you can get something that's flatter or a little bit more fluffy. It's totally up to you. I use both sometimes depending on my mood and kind of what look I'm going for. And then next, after that, I like the, this is another Quo brush that's really old. The whole thing is actually like falling apart, but I really like this one because it's short and it's really tight bristles, so I can get right underneath there and pack that on the lower lash line. It's really good for blending it out, and then also if you were doing sort of like a cut crease maybe, this one would be good for really getting in that crease and making it more defined than using one of the fluffier brushes. Then after that, usually for, this one has a dual purpose. You can use it for under the lash line, or you can use it for packing on some shimmer to your lid. So this is the MAC 239 brush, and it's flatter. If you compare it to the Quo one, it's just a little bit longer in terms of the bristles. Let's see here. So you can see it's just a little bit longer in terms of the bristles. My brushes are dirty, but it's a lot easier to kind of pack it on. You can spray some Fix Plus on this MAC one and really pack on the shimmer in the middle. If you don't want to use your finger, it does the same thing. Then next, to either do, the next two brushes are from ColourPop, and they both can do the same sort of thing. It just depends on your preference. So I like to put a little bit of shimmer on the inside corner and on the brow bone. So this brush right here, this is the ColourPop number 7, and this is the ColourPop number 11. So you can see they're both like two completely different brushes. Let's see if I can focus. So this one here, number 7, I really like because it's got more of like a dome shape to it, and number 11 is like a flat brush. So this dome is really good for getting in that inside corner, and it also does a dual purpose of packing it onto the brow bone, whereas this number 11 probably would only be good for packing it on or even blending of the lower lash line. It's just a really flat brush, and I like it for doing it on the brow bone the most. But this, if you're only wanting to purchase one, I would suggest getting the number 7 from ColourPop because it kind of does both, so why would you need to buy 2 brushes? So the last one goes along with my mascara, which is something I didn't realize that I would want until I got it, and it's from Morphe. It's the M221, and this is the brush that combs out your eyelashes. So this brush here, it's like got a whole bunch of spikes. As you can see, like my mascara is all over it. But it's got a whole bunch of spikes that actually like brush out your eyelashes. Sometimes I find my eyelashes get a little clumpy, so I'll use this and spread them out a little bit because I like them to look more full than like all bunched together, which I'm sure many of you do as well. So this one's from Morphe. I haven't seen it anywhere else, I'm not sure, but Morphe has so many brushes that like you could order them. You could order all of these brushes or a version of these brushes on Morphe, but I just really like this one. I don't use it every day, but when I'm doing videos or taking pictures, then I usually brush my eyelashes out with this one. So those are all the brushes that I have for my kind of roundup. They're all sort of like a variety. They're no one specific brand. If you're gonna purchase, I would recommend getting them from Morphe or from ColourPop. They have really good brushes for really good prices. You don't need to go and spend like $100 on a makeup brush. A lot of these brushes I've had for a really long time, and I just make sure to keep them clean when I'm using them. So yeah, that's all I have for today. I hope you all enjoyed this makeup brush video, and I will see you on my next one. Bye!